Dr. James J.C. Cooley. That's right. It's the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. All right.
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on The Answer San Diego. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley and his guest will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness and overcome adversities. Listen to The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, every Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on The Answer San Diego.
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on 660 AM The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore them or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley, and his guests will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness and overcome adversities. Listen to The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on 660 AM The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth.
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on The Answer. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley and his guests will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness and overcome adversities. Listen to The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on The Answer.
Yeah. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. The James Cooley Show. It's your life. Yeah. James J.C. Cooley.
Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and I'll tell you what, we got an absolutely sensational show coming your way today. We're talking about a topic that I think is dear to so many people out there, that's married or getting married, and it's I think it needs to be talked about, and I think there's a lot of things that we need to consider in order to have a safe, successful, prosperous marriage. And this topic, I'm not going to give it away, Michelle. I see you looking at me strange. I'm not going to give away the title, but we got this guest on today that's going to help us out and understand a lot of these things. So how you doing, Michelle? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Yes, I had a chance to speak to this guest before we went live. And this topic is really an important question, and also things that people should think about before they decide to take that plunge. But also, situations that happen when, marriages do fall apart, and one of the reasons why. So we have an expert in the legal field who's going to talk about this.
Well, Michelle, can you please introduce the title of the show, the purpose of the show, and introduce this fantastic guest?
Most definitely. So the title of today's show is Can Your Marriage Survive Financial Stress? We're having a sit-down conversation with Marco Brown. He's a managing partner of Brown Family Law. He's going to discuss financial stress basically being one of the top reasons couples divorce, how divorces turn ugly when one or both partners are hiding money. And he also is going to discuss mediation. Working together on a parenting plan is critical. Gathering financial documents prior to filing a divorce, and prenups and postnups are not just for the wealthy. So again, Mr. Marco Brown is the managing partner of Brown Family Law, where he's dedicated to guiding families through the complexities of divorce and family law with expertise and compassion. After discovering his passion for family law while helping a close friend through a difficult divorce, he committed himself to building a leading family law firm. He brings deep legal knowledge and extensive litigation experience to every case, helping clients navigate challenging transitions with clarity and support. Please welcome to the show, Mr. Marco Brown.
How you doing? How you doing, Marco? How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How you doing, JC?
Man, I am doing absolutely fantastic, man. I tell you, Michelle and I finally slowed down. We've been traveling for the last 6 weeks. We're back in Texas right now in our Texas home. I just was in California last week, so or just relaxing, just taking it all in. So how's your day going so far, man?
It's been good. Went to a retirement for one of our judges here. She's been on the bench for 19, 20 years, served, everybody, done tons of divorces in front of her, and she's served them well. So we really appreciate everything she's done.
Yeah. So can you tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit more about you? I know Michelle read a lot, but can you tell them where you grew up?
Oh, sure.
What makes you so passionate about what you're doing, and how you determined that the attorney field is what you want to do?
Oh, okay. Yeah, there's a lot there. I'll unpack that for a minute. So I'm a kid from small town, Alaska, small village, Alaska. It's called Cold Bay, population of 85. We're out there. But thankfully, my grandmother was the most intelligent woman that I have still ever met in my entire life. And she was an education psychology professor before women got PhDs and did that sort of thing. So I always knew from the time I was a little kid that I would be a professional of some sort. I'd be a scientist, a mathematician, a lawyer, doctor, something like that. And as I grew older, I realized that my brain worked like a lawyer's brain works. And I figured, hey, I might as well do that. So I go to law school, I get into lawyering. And then I had a very good friend who needed a divorce, and I needed money because I had started a law firm and I didn't have any money at all. So I thought, okay, let's figure this out. So I went and I read everything I possibly could on divorce here in Utah, and she hired me to do it, got through it, really enjoyed it. Like I enjoyed the act of serving her and her kids, and then figuring this out, and I felt good at the end of it. And then I just started doing more and more of it. I figured out I was exceptionally good at it. And so it's been all I've done for the last, 15 years, essentially.
So if you had one word to describe who you are, one adjective, by the way, what adjective would that be and why?
An adjective. I'm going to go for a hyphenated word. So service oriented.
I love it.
Yeah. I've always loved the service aspect of what I do. Now, I'm a lawyer. I like to make money, but I can make money a lot of ways, serving people in divorce, helping them through probably the worst part of their life is really, really what I enjoy.
Yeah, so a lot of people that probably listen to the show right now that might be married or might not be married, but the most, at least I think, the challenging thing about marriage, if both the husband and the wife is not on the same sheet of music as it relate to spending, and one hides money or overspend and all of that. Can you tell our viewers and listeners, have you came across a few situations like that where you just had to just tell them straight, this is the reason why?
Yeah, it happens all the time. So I think the norm is not that everybody behaves the same way with money in a marriage. I think the norm is that people behave differently in marriage. I mean, I know that I behave differently than my wife. I've been married for 24 years. I'm the saver and I'm the investor, but I'm also the spender, right? And she's just more even keel about a lot of this stuff. And that's honestly how it is in most marriages. So you have this kind of dichotomy, but you make it work because you get on the same page and you can kind of help the other person to not engage in those excesses, right? And that's the beauty of marriage itself. But when those get out of whack, when one person just hides money or spends huge amounts on the credit card, whatever it is, that happens all the time. And that is very, very destructive in marriages. I always say that finances are not the number one reason people get divorced, but they make every problem in a marriage worse. You want to make problems in parenting worse, have tons of debt or not be on the same page with money. You want to have, sex problems in your marriage. You want to make those 10 times worse, like have a lot of debt, right? You want anything at all that is wrong in your marriage is just going to be 10 times worse if you're not on the same page with your money.
Yeah, so currently, as you already know, that recession fears, people think about recession from a economic perspective. What advice would you give to folks out there that couples are married, all that? Because when you have these fears and these problems start existing, money is scarce, especially if you're not in a professional job or jobs environment, and that creates, I believe, discord within the marriage. So what advice would you tell some of our listeners right now? We got 2 minutes before the break. How to, just get their mind and hands around that, and to make sure that that's not going to be a major issue in deciding whether they stay together or not.
Sure. So I think the most important thing is, one, we might not have a recession. So you can have 1,000 problems in your head and none of them ever come true, right? So plan for it, but don't plan on it. So, but beyond that, beyond the mindset portion of this, I think what you do is you get together as a couple and you make a budget. And the budget is, what do we make right now? Where's the money going to go? Like every dollar, where's it going to go? How can we get out of debt? Because debt really does, increase anxiety and these sorts of things. So how are we going to get out of that? And then you live that plan. Like in the first few months, you do a budget, you're going to fight about the budget. That's just kind of what it is. But you also set up an alternate budget, which is, hey, if we go into recession and our income is decreased by 20 to 25%, how are we going to do that? What are we going to do? Right. And then you just put together that plan. So really, when you have a plan like that and you planned for the future and you know what you're going to do, it takes away almost all that anxiety. And then you can just do whatever else is necessary in your marriage and you're not going to fight about those things.
Wow. I like that. I like that explanation. We're going to take a station break. Regardless which platform you watch us on, whether you watch us on YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook, E360 Television, Rumble, and over 84 other platforms. You want to be part of this conversation. All you have to do is just go to the comments. Ask any question that you might have. I promise you we'll get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
It's the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. Yeah. Come on.
Welcome to Viridian Christian University, where faith and learning come together to transform lives. At VCU, we believe that education is more than just academics. It's about fostering a community of growth, integrity, and purpose. Whether you're pursuing a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate, VCU offers flexible, affordable, and 100% online degree programs that cater to your busy life. Our innovative platform provides a personalized learning experience, empowering you to thrive in today's ever-evolving world. Join a global community of learners guided by an experienced faculty who are committed to your success. With VCU, you're not just earning a degree, you're preparing for a future that integrates faith, leadership, and service. Viridian Christian University, educating with purpose, transforming lives. Learn more at ViridianChristianUniversity.com. ViridianChristianUniversity.com.
A Black Man's Point of View is the newest Amazon.com #1 release and bestseller book from author Dr. James J.C. Cooley, featuring the perspective from 11 other contributing authors. In A Black Man's Point of View, Dr. James Cooley unpacks his thoughts and personal experiences about the challenges, stereotypes, and feelings of self-worth that many black men face today due to a 400-year ancestry rooted in slavery and colonization. Yet, how so many black men move forward despite this history. Most importantly, A Black Man's Point of View conveys that all men, regardless of race, creed, or color, are capable of love, respect, and dignity. Described as a map to a greater life from the heart of a man who's experienced life's misfortune and harsh conditions, James shows us how beliefs, convictions, and a healthy mentality can help propel a life worth living. A must-read for all. Order your copy of A Black Man's Point of View by author Dr. James J.C. Cooley today from Amazon.com or wherever books are sold.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
The James Cooley Show. It's your life. That's right.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and our topic that we're talking about today, I tell you, is so important. So important to healthy marriage, or if you, I hate to say it, if you even splitting up. But what this great attorney is talking about right now is some of the reasons why. He's giving us insight on things that you might want to consider. And he's giving us insight on saving a marriage. And if it doesn't work out, everybody needs to leave peacefully. And so, Marcos, I know that you talked a little bit about some of the things that people might want to do from a financial perspective, but how does financial stress contribute to the breakdown of a marriage, and what proactive steps can couples take to prevent this?
So I'll do the second part of this first. So what proactive steps can they take? One, before you get married, talk about money, talk about how you behave regarding money, what your beliefs are regarding money. So for example, I grew up, again, small village in Alaska. My parents worked for the government. So my dad ran a salmon hatchery and my mom was an air traffic controller. So they brought me up in a very kind of middle-class government worker mindset. And my parents are utterly fantastic. I love them, but they gave me some thoughts about money that didn't really serve me well later on in life. They were just too small. And I didn't realize that until I was in my 30s and then, in the early part of my 40s. And you have to do a lot of digging to figure that sort of thing out. But that's good to know. right? It's good to know how you think about money. It's good to know how your potential spouse thinks about money. So have those kind of conversations. And if you don't want to have those conversations because you think that that is just too personal, then don't get married, man. Because these are the conversations you need to have in order to have good marriages. Just like you need to talk about kids if you're going to get married, right? And all these things. So have those discussions. That's really, that's the proactive part before you even get married, and then continue to have those discussions once you're married, because people change, man. My views on money have changed drastically as I've done work within myself to kind of overcome that middle-class mindset that my parents instilled in me. So my wife is married to a very different man that has very different ideas about money than I currently do. But for example, I remember when I had this conversation with my wife in college, since we got married in college, and I told her what I thought I would make, the maximum amount of money I thought I would make in my life, per year. And I said, "Are you cool with that?" And she said, "Yeah, that's great," because she grew up in the Air Force and her dad, didn't make all that much. So she thought that number was fantastic. Well, I make approximately 18 times that amount of money at this point, right? And so I'm a very different sort of person that has very different ideas, and she's thinking about it differently. But we always have that conversation, and it allows us to really come together and know how each other's thinking, but it allows us to, look into our future and how are we going to deal with money and where are we going to spend it and so on and so forth. And the more you have those conversations and the more you're on the same page, the better your marriage is likely going to be. Now, a lot of other things can mess up your marriage, but all in all, the more on the same page you are with money, the better it's going to be.
Wow. So I had a friend of mine that was getting married, and he told me, he loved his wife. They weren't married yet, but he loved her. But she had a spending habit, all this. And I recommended to him that, and this might not be right, I said, "Man, you need to run a background check on her to make sure that she's not going to bring a whole lot of debt, because once you get married, the debt is yours in her." And he thought about that and he did it. And
what do you find, man? What do you find?
Oh man, it was so much debt that she had because it was a pretension, blinking of the eye, all that stuff. That it was, he couldn't take that. I probably wouldn't have done it either. But I know that was, I felt bad about recommending that to him. But he did not get married because he saw the risk. That was a whole lot of risk. Would you recommend someone that's listening right now, thinking about getting married, and unsure of a person? And would you say both of them do a background? So it's honesty, integrity, and ethics. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So, President Reagan, right? Like trust but verify. So I got to tell you that I got married when I was 24 and we were both in college.
Mm-hmm.
I did not do this sort of thing, but there was no behavioral indication in my wife that she had these sorts of problems. In fact, I remember she came to me, she was so scared to do this. She had $2,500 on a credit card because she had moved to Utah to go to school and her parents weren't helping her and her car broke down and she had to put that on the credit card. And she was so scared to tell me that because she was relatively certain that I would not marry her because of it. And when she told me, I thought, oh, okay, cool. Like if that's the extent of your problem, like we're great. But there just wasn't any behavioral indications in my sense. So I didn't do it. But if you got questions about that, and you usually can feel it when somebody is lying to you in general, and then when they're lying about money, there's no reason that you shouldn't pull the credit report. There really isn't. I mean, it's the same kind of thing. Like if you think that your soon-to-be spouse has slept with 20 more people than that your soon-to-be spouse is saying, you probably should check on that, right? That seems to be a good idea to me. So yeah.
I feel bad about that. But it turned out to be true on tomorrow. That. So if a couple have reached a stage of and decided that divorcing is the best option, what are the best first steps to take? What should they take as a couple to make sure that they leave amicably and that there's not going to be any major, I know it's going to be always some issues later on down the line, but where they could depart and both be happy and still be friends if possible. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, first thing I want to say is there is no such thing as an amicable divorce. I've done, 5,000 at this point, and I've seen exceedingly few that were truly amicable. Okay. Most of the time, almost all the time, divorces are just train wrecks and you're trying to manage a train wreck. But, train wrecks are of different types. Like you can have really, really bad ones and you can have ones that are kind of minor. So the way that you kind of tamp down the temperature and get through it with as little kind of train wreckiness as possible is when you decide that you're going to get divorced, decide that you're going to fight as little as humanly possible about it, especially if you have kids. And then try to come to an agreement regarding money as soon as possible. Okay. Because people fight about two things in divorce. They fight about kids and money. So if you can come to an agreement on the money side of things, that's just one less thing to fight about. And usually when you're good and you come to an agreement on the money side, then you can get the kids done pretty easily because you've learned how to work together as a divorcing couple, right? So what that means in reality to work together is to figure out your finances. So you sit down, you say, okay, what are our assets? What are our debts? Let's write all of those things down and let's determine what we think is as fair as humanly possible here. Now, you're going to disagree about this. You do. Like, men don't want to pay alimony. And if you think men don't want to pay alimony, women really don't want to pay alimony to their ex-husbands. But, come up with the kind of the best you got. And then if you need to negotiate it out, sit down like rational human beings and negotiate it out. If you go through that process and you do it with real good intent, then you're going to save a ton of cash on your divorce and a ton of heartache. And if you have kids, you're going to save them from decades and decades of emotional and mental anguish.
Marcos, okay, what you just said, and you're an attorney that does this. How often do you find those type of couples that what you just said, that's willing to understand that we can be peaceful and we can save a whole lot of heartache and we can save a whole lot of money? Now, I've been divorced before, so I already know how that works. And I know it's painful and I know it's expensive, especially if both people have their own attorneys and they're fighting back and forth. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So the kind of the relative percentage, I'm not entirely sure. I see a lot of people though that really do try to do this, really do try to sit down and come to some sort of agreement and just not put the emotions aside. You can't do that, but deal with the emotions as best you can and get through it. Especially again, if you have kids, like this is super imperative. So there are quite a number of people who can do this sort of thing. And then there are people who cannot. And those, a lot of those people end up hiring us to fight about things. And like, I'm an attorney and I will take anybody's money, but it's not really, I'll go to, I spent a lot of time in Italy. I lived there when I was younger and I love it. So I'll take your money and go to Italy, but it's usually not the best use of your cash. But we're here to do that sort of thing. If people can't get over themselves and can't come to that kind of agreement, but again, not really the best way to go.
It's not the best way to go, and it's a major factor on the kids, especially when they're younger. And I can only speak from experience. When they're younger, then they grow up, then they understand. And one parent might be pitching negative toward the other parents, and whichever one the kids, they do it, but once they grow up, they understand that might have not been true. We got 2 minutes before the break. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So the data on this are very clear that divorce messes up kids in almost all circumstances. So I'm not one of those divorce attorneys that's like, oh, hey, divorce is great and whatnot. I actually hate divorce, but it makes me a really good divorce attorney because I'm not super gung-ho about it, right? I'm not gung-ho about going to court and fighting and punching each other in the face and stuff like that, because I know the data and I know that it harms children. So try to do it as little as humanly possible. The only time that it really benefits kids is if there's like major fighting ongoing all the time, or domestic violence and sexual violence and that sort of thing. Kids should never be around that sort of stuff. So you are going to mess up kids, but the way you keep from messing up your kids as much as humanly possible is to fight as little as humanly possible, right? And then never, ever badmouth the other parent. I don't care what the parent did to you. I don't care what your spouse did to you. I don't care about any of that sort of stuff. Your kid never needs to hear that. And if you do that, if you badmouth the other parent, you bust that relationship with the other parent, with that kid. And also that kid is very likely to resent you when they become an adult. You're
absolutely right about that. Because it happened in my relationship. And once the kids, just like I mentioned earlier, once they grow up and get an understanding, they understand that why you said that about mama, why you said that about daddy, because they understand once they reach a certain age. I tell you, we're going to take a station break, but I'm looking at the numbers, Marco. I'm looking at the numbers on all of these different platforms, and a lot of people are tuning in, but I think they are afraid to come and ask you questions. I want questions. If whichever platform that you're watching us on, if you have any questions, just go to the comment, ask any question that you might have. I promise you, Marco will get you an answer. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
The future is here.
Now is the time to pursue the greatness in you. Welcome to Viridian Christian University, where faith meets future. We are a fully accredited, 100% online Christian university. We offer bachelor's degree, master's and doctorate degree programs, built for students like you. Affordable tuitions, 30+ degree programs, 100% online and flexible. Integrating faith with learning. Study from anywhere at your pace. At VCU, we do not just prepare you for a degree. We prepare you for purpose. Discover who you are. Grow in faith. And build a future that impacts the world.
Are you ready to start your journey today? Visit www.viridianchristianuniversity.com.
Apply today and be among the global leaders.
I'm Dr. Michelle Cooley. I've heard so many powerful stories from women who survived heart disease because they took action in time. But I've also heard stories of women who weren't as lucky. The difference? Awareness, access to care, and early intervention. According to the American Heart Association, every 80 seconds, a woman in the United States dies from cardiovascular disease. That's more than one life lost every single minute. But did you know that 80% of heart disease cases are preventable? That's right, 80%. That means small changes like eating healthier, exercising, and managing stress can save lives.
Hi, I'm Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and I'm committed to making sure that more women survive and strive. Please join me in raising funds for the American Heart Association to support life-saving research, because every heartbeat is worth fighting for. In honor of Women's History Month, let's spread awareness and help women recognize the warning signs before it's too late. Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I'll tell you what, I'm sitting back enjoying this discussion with Marco Brown. I mean, I call it discussion. It's not an interview. You enter it now. It's a discussion because it's engaging, and you all are watching this, and you all might have some questions, but you're afraid to ask. Step up to the plate. Ask this young man any questions that you might have. I promise you will get you an answer. Marco, so we're talking about, can your marriage survive financial stress? And what are some of the key steps that are indicators, I call them indicators, with couples that bring on these problems that they might have, indicators, regardless of what the situation is, as it relates to their financial status, their spending, their a lot of different indicators that they might be experiencing some major financial stress that could derail a marriage.
Oh, so what are the indicators of that? I think debt is the number one indicator. So debt is, I mean, for lack of a better way to put this, debt is slavery, right? It's, if you believe in the Bible, it's not really talked about terribly well in the Bible. Let's put it that way. So I think that's number one. And what that really means is that you have not been good with your money. And that just increases huge amounts of stress within the marriage on, like I've said before, every part of the marriage. Another indicator that things have truly gone wrong with your money is you're hiding spending. Even if you're not in debt, you're just hiding spending. So credit cards the other person doesn't know about, anything like that. That is terribly, terribly destructive. It's completely dishonest, and it's a harbinger of really terrible things that are going to come. I think another one is overspending on children. Now, look, I got 3 kids. I spend a good amount of money in my kids. I make investments in my kids, and my wife and I have chosen to do that. But people can really, really overspend on kind of needless things with their kids, and that creates a tremendous amount of stress in marriages as well. So I think those are 3 leading indicators.
Well, is there in your years of practice, let's say if the issues of financial disruptions have brought the couple there for dissolution of their marriage, is there like suggestions or recommendations that, or mediation that is, presented where if the financial issues were resolved, then the marriage can be resolved? Have you seen that in your practice, or the financial issues brought up other things that just basically cannot be fixed?
That's a really, really good question. I mean, what I do is to get people divorced, but I know a lot of I speak with a lot of people that don't get divorced and in fact, I try to convince them not to many times if they're on the fence about it. Like, it's much better to spend money somewhere else and not get divorced than it is to spend money on me. And I always tell them, like, go to a therapist, talk through these things. And I know a lot of marriage and family therapists, and that's one of the very first things that they do with people is sit them down and say, okay, behaviorally, how are you going to overcome this if you want to save this marriage? And getting on the same page with money is and debt and these sorts of things is, one of the first things they do. They will literally sit down, good therapists, and budget with their clients to help them get on the same page. So that happens quite a lot. Unfortunately, though, when we get into divorce and we go to mediation, because about 99% of our divorces are resolved through mediation, we're also unfortunately doing the same thing. Like, we're budgeting, right? We're figuring out what the budget is and then getting people divorced off of that budget. And I really wish that they had done that sort of thing a long time ago and they weren't in my office.
Is it a little bit more complicated when multiple marriages are involved? Let's say you have Jack and Jill, and they came into the marriage. They've both been divorced previously, whether once or twice or three times, and assets are held with maybe things they didn't realize. They didn't take, let's say, ex-wife off their insurance policy, things like that. And I know, being in the business, not a legal business, but in the financial business, that when a person gets remarried, it is important to go over all the documents where their ex-wife or husband is listed as beneficiary. And if they don't and they pass away, unfortunately, those assets are the property of the former spouse. So now, can you explain, in a situation, I don't know if you've come across this, where new assets are found, but for some reason it is going to the former spouse or, husband or wife. Can you kind of go into that and how that all works?
Yeah. So this can get really, really complicated, but most of the time this doesn't actually come up. People are pretty good about this, but it does come up. And the most common situations in which it does come up are military benefits, that I've seen at least, military benefits, and then life insurance and other insurances like that. So the beneficiary on life insurances and health insurance and so on and so forth. Now, there are states that actually deal with this in their laws. So you get divorced and automatically the ex-husband or ex-wife is removed as the beneficiary by law, and the new husband or wife is designated as the beneficiary. But some states don't have that. So you have to go in and actually change those beneficiaries. So that's a really good thing to do, is to sit down and say, okay, one, what are our insurances? What are our 401k plans? All of these things that have a beneficiary, you should be going in and changing that kind of the moment you get divorced to somebody else, but especially when you get remarried. Absolutely. The one where I've seen it really, really bite people in the rear end is on military benefits, and they just never have changed the beneficiary, and the ex-wife ends up getting things that she should never get. And then there's this huge kind of fight between, somebody dies, and there's this big probate fight between the current wife and then the ex-wife. I've seen that, and that is utterly terrible. I mean, you think divorce litigation's bad. Wait till you see wife and ex-wife go at each other over dead husband stuff. That gets extraordinarily terrible. So yeah, don't do that. Like, check every beneficiary you have and switch it on over.
So Marco, if the couple decides they want to go through with the dissolution of their marriage, and let's say one partner is hiding money.
Michelle, can you hold that question? We got to take this break.
Okay.
Hold that question to the next segment. This is getting I'm loving this, because what you just went over, Marco, happens all the time, where a person do not change their beneficiary and everything goes to the ex-wife or whatever. But I tell you what, Michelle, hold that thought. We're gonna take a station break. It ain't too late to ask any question that you might have. tell you, we're going to take a station break, come back. Michelle going to ask that question. Remember, this is an extremely important conversation. I know a lot of you all out there that's watching the show like, okay, I might want to ask a question, but my wife is right here next to me. And she might be thinking the same thing. I tell you, we're going to take a station break. I'll come back. We're going to bring Marcos right back. We got a lot of more questions. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break.
Your life. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. The James Cooley Show. It's your life.
At Viridian Christian University, we believe education is more than just a degree. It's a pathway to a purpose-driven life. Whether you're advancing your career, pursuing a passion, or building a new future, VCU's 100% online programs give you the flexibility to learn on your terms, anywhere, anytime. With expert faculty, personalized mentorship, and a faith-centered approach, you'll gain the skills, knowledge, and leadership you need to make a lasting impact. VCU offers bachelor's, master's, and doctorate degrees, each designed to empower you for success in today's fast-changing world. Join a global community of believers, learners, and leaders. Ready to start your journey? Viridian Christian University, transforming lives, empowering futures. Visit us at ViridianChristianUniversity.com. That's ViridianChristianUniversity.com.
Welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. I tell you, last segment, I sit back, I deliberately took myself off camera. I did not know that Dr. Michelle Cooley was going to be asking so many powerful questions. And I'm going to turn this segment over to her. But I tell you what, I want to talk about this great college, Viridian Christian University. You say, why you want to talk about that? Oh, well, you're the chancellor. Yes, I'm the chancellor of the university, but we believe in giving people an opportunity to further education from a Christian perspective. We offer over 30 degree programs from bachelor's, master's, doctorate, and people that are doing extraordinary things. We honor them with what we call an honorary doctorate degree. Honorary doctorate degree means that you've been recognized, and you're a doctor. You can use that title because you've been awarded an honorary doctorate degree. But we want our viewers and our listeners to just go to ViridianChristianUniversity.org or .com and check out our programs. It might be something that you might be interested in further education. We're fully accredited. That's a big thing. We're fully accredited. But we just want everybody to be able to attain one of our degrees. We just crowned and awarded the Crown Prince of Ghana, the Asante tribe in Dubai, Queen Nana, Ghana, their honorary doctorate degrees, and you guys can do the same thing, but we also offer these other programs. You know, I want to get back to the show. I'm gonna turn it over to Michelle, but wow, Michelle, you was asking so many great questions prior to the break. Can you pick it up from there? Because Marcos was putting it out there.
Most definitely. Most definitely. So Marco, before the break, I asked a question regarding assets being held by one of the parties in the dissolution of their marriage. They decide they want to just end it. Case scenario: a client, one of the married partners is hiding assets. What happens if, during the proceedings, they want to take, let's say, assets they have and transfer it to a family member, right? They're hiding it to a family member. And for some reason, the firm, yourself, they find out about it. Legally, do those assets belong to somebody else, even though they were officially in the hands of one of the married partners?
Look, whenever you ask an attorney a question, the answer is going to be it depends. So it does kind of depend. When it comes to real estate, so this is like the most concrete example. Mm-hmm. So you own a home and your spouse deeds the home to his mom for $1, in order to get around, actually sharing it in the divorce or something like that. Mm-hmm. So every state that I know of has what's called a fraudulent transfer statute. And it covers this sort of thing, especially with real estate, because our laws are very, very well developed regarding real estate. So what we'd have to do very quickly, what you'd have to do is identify that happened, right? Mm-hmm. And there are specific ways that we can do that as attorneys. And then we have to claw back that transfer under the fraudulent transfer statute and get it back into the divorce, and then after that, we split it up, right? So that does happen. I've had that happen in cases. I've gone to trial about that, and unfortunately happens far more often than you would think. So you really do have to watch for that sort of thing. Now, that's on real estate, and it's really easy on real estate. But when it comes to, other personal property items, cars, guns, gold, whatever it is, that becomes a little more difficult. But really what you're doing is trying to find that, like, where did that go? And what are the circumstances under which that went away from the married couple? And then, claw that back. And it can be harder with personal property, but we can still do it. We do it all the time.
Okay. I think everyone knows what a prenuptial agreement is. What is a postnuptial agreement?
So prenuptial agreement is a contract about a marriage before a marriage begins. Okay. A postnuptial agreement is a contract about a marriage after a marriage has already taken place. So a lot of times people will say there's infidelity in the marriage, right? Somebody had an affair. Yes. And one spouse will come to the other spouse and say, look, man, I will stay, but I'm only going to stay under these circumstances. Okay. It's 1, 2, 3. And you are going to sign a contract to that effect. And so you write up a contract, and it happens in a lot of other situations, but that happens quite often in that situation. So that is fully enforceable depending on how well you write the contract. You really should get an attorney for this sort of thing, because there are a lot of ins and outs with postnups, but they can be very, very useful for keeping marriages together by giving one of the spouses an amount of security that he or she didn't have before the postnup was signed.
Wow.
Marriage is tough.
I'm fumbling my words here. An agreement such as that, even one before you're married, I'm kind of people thinking it's insulting, not everybody, but taking the romance out. And yes, divorce does happen. Let's be realistic. There's a lot of people out there who've been divorced at least once, and those who have successful first time marriage. Is the recommend? I can't speak for everybody, but wealthy person, not so wealthy person, end up in a marriage. Is the recommendation, and everyone's different, some people don't sign it, to have one of those prenuptial agreements?
Again, this is really going to depend on you. Let's say that, so I've been married to my wife for 24 years now.
Mm-hmm.
If my wife died tomorrow and
Mm-hmm.
I decided at some point, I'd start dating a lady and I decide that I want to marry her, and the
Mm-hmm.
only way I felt comfortable with that was to sign a prenup, I wouldn't get married to her. That's just me. It's like, it's just the way it is. But I'm a different type of guy. If you have lots and lots of assets and you're kind of wondering about getting remarried, and this, having a prenup will take the kind of anxiety about the money away for you and allow you to focus on the marriage, then absolutely, have that discussion. And that's totally okay. I see no reason that you shouldn't do that sort of thing, but it's a personal thing. Like I said, I wouldn't do it. If I didn't trust her enough and I had to have a contract, I simply wouldn't marry her. But a lot of other people do need that sort of thing. And if you have a lot of money, it becomes much, much more important.
I got one more question, James, before I know we got like a minute or two before the show. Is there a way, if two people want to get married and one has a lot of debt, whether it's student loans or bankruptcy, is there a way there is a contract that can be enforced that this person's debt will not be the other person's responsibility before they go into the marriage?
30-second response.
Yep, absolutely. You can do that under a prenup. We do that all the time. You can cordon off assets, and you can also cordon off debts. Happens all the time.
Marcos, we're out of time, but I'll tell you what, I want to invite you back if your schedule permits.
That'd be great.
I want to invite you back to the show. This was absolutely fantastic. I think we need to do a part 2. Michelle, thank you so much for putting together another absolutely outstanding show. I'd like to thank our viewers and our listeners out there for tuning into the James Cooley Show, Monday through Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, and 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Always dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. We'll be back tomorrow. Wow. We're on the radio tomorrow and the other day. Dream big, think big, and be big at everything you do. We'll talk to you later.